Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about a Linux project or center on topics about something in the Linux and open source world. It could be a Linux distribution, a desktop environment, or application. We also discuss the news and take topics from anywhere around the world for an enjoyable chat. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And on the panel today, I have with me Sravan, Colin, the Vashinator, Jinda, Mark, and last but not least, but the last one in through the door, Chickle. How is everybody?
Excellent.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, doing
Very
great.
good.
That is fantastic. So on the docket for today, we're going to have our open mic night, check what's on the menu for next week, do a news flight if there's time, a community free pour if there's time, last call. But first, what have you been doing in Linux or tech? And first on that list is Vash. You just cranked out another video. I love your thumbnail, by the way. I think you've really stepped up your thumbnail game. The font is beautiful. You steal that from Star Trek?
No, the font is based on the logo and my logo, and the logo is based on the Vim logo
Oh, okay.
because of the V.
I gotcha.
I'm still working on the thumbnails. I'm still not very satisfied with that. But so my video today is about HedgeDoc. I discovered several features that I did not know that this program actually had. So I would encourage you to check it out because I mean the basics are, typical markdown stuff, but there are some features in there that I was really surprised to see. And just the more I dug into it, the more I realized there was a lot here that, I feel like people don't know about or really are probably not being taken advantage of as much as they could be.
Like what features in particular do you think people are not taking advantage of? I know I use HedgeDoc. Everyone here on the panel has access to the HedgeDoc for the show notes. So what's something that maybe that, like if you could, obviously we should watch your video, but we could narrow it down to maybe one thing to start off with, what would you say we should really learn besides the markdown piece of it?
Yeah, so once you're in edit mode, if you click on Sublime down at the very bottom of the edit tab, you can change it to Vim or Emacs for your edit features. And that was pretty cool. And all the Vim commands work. So if you do DW or D2W, you delete two words just like anything else. It's a little weird because of the markdown sometimes, but I just thought that was really awesome that they had that. And like I didn't even know that was there until I just happened to notice Sublime and click on it. And I'm like, oh, wait, there's two other emotes here. And so, if you were proficient at those two text editors, you could do, well, Emacs is, we now know Emacs is more than a text editor, but if you're proficient at those, it's something where you could, really do a lot of editing on your file.
So is it Emacs and Vim is built into the HedgeDoc remote application itself?
Yeah.
Really?
You have edit modes based on those, yeah. So like I say, you can go in and, if you want to delete a line, you can, in Vim mode, you can do Shift DD and you'll delete the entire line.
Really?
Makes it really, yeah.
So I have to
Insert
watch
mode, visual mode, all that stuff, I think.
I will certainly have to watch your video because I have no idea. I'm already clicking around.
It's at the very bottom of the edit panel.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. I don't want to do anything to potentially make my life difficult during the show, but outside of the show, after I watch your video, I definitely want to play with that and see what I can break. I mean, do better. It's very cool. So what inspired you to do that particular video?
Well, I had been looking at collaboration tools that were open source, that didn't involve the overlords that are Google. So that was one that I had on my list, and I was looking at another one as well, but that one kind of blew up on me, but I think that's just my fault. So I wanted to, HedgeDoc was the other one I was really interested in, so I wanted to go with that one.
Very cool.
I have a question for you. Did you find anywhere someone hosts it, or is it does it always have to be self-hosted?
Like as in like a paid host or something? As far as I know, the Linux, Destination Linux has one, obviously, but they have it on their server somewhere. But I don't know about anything else.
like I think that's a particularly hard starting point because I know many of us here can do are tech enough so that they can self-host stuff, but that's a really hard starting point for most of the users.
I think
Well-
it's sort of inherently designed to be that way though. I don't think it's really presented in a way that's like, oh, here's a thing that like not only we host, but there's zero setup and anything else like that. I mean, I don't think any of the messaging around this product suggests that it is just a sort of like download the app and go kind of experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely not.
I know that, but it would be easier. Like it can be a paid option. Like I know of other stuff which are open source, but they have like paid options so that they can make money off of it and they can host their own product, which is easier. Like if you again, we talked about Tailscale, right? Shiggle like last week or even before that. It's like it's open source and you can use it for free for up to 20 devices, but if you want more than that, there's a paid option for organization. So it's like there's a free tier. But if you want, you can run your own Tailscale node. They have code and GitHub for that. You can just go and build it. So I'm talking about that way. Like I can host HedgeDoc, but I know how to do self-hosting. But that's not true for most of the people on the internet or anywhere.
Yeah, I do think self-hosting this. I mean, I don't know what it takes to self-host it because I have no idea. But it would be kind of cool to have that internally, like in your own home network, your home lab or whatever, your own cubicle lab, and then if you're using Tailscale, be able to access it remotely, I suppose. I don't know if that would how well that would work.
I love the fact that like Tailscale has solved all of my needs for like because like ISPs, especially here, they will change your IP address constantly. They just cycle through that stuff like it's nothing. And so having to set up a system to keep that in track, not something I really care about. Tailscale, it's the same IP address anywhere. It's just direct. It's so easy.
That's very cool. Do you have it just going to one computer, and then from there you go to whichever ones, or how do you use that?
Oh, everything in the house is connected through it. So like even my TV has Tailscale installed, and I
Really?
can actually SSH into my TV, which is kind of cool.
What
It's
TV do you
pretty fun.
have that you can do that?
It's a Sony Bravia, so it's an Android TV. And so it's kind of fun. I mean, yeah, there's no real good use for it for me either. Like I have zero reason to do it, but it's it's just because I can.
No, I think that's a
What I'm talking
perfect
about,
reason.
right? It's like Tailscale. Imagine because it's already there, you can download apps and you can just run it. But imagine if you have to do all that hosting on your own, like spin up a Tailscale node. Imagine how hard that would be. Like not hard, but inconvenient. You can say it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
And that's a hard starting point for many users like HedgeDoc. Again, I've been using HedgeDoc because Nate sends me a link on every show. But like I think it's really, really cool. But again, that's a hard starting point for many people.
Yeah, that's very cool. All right, Sravan, you've got something in the works right now. Now, I guess you took kind of a down tech week, but you've been working on something like some sort of self-hosted blog.
Yeah, I think actually I did this like last month.
Okay.
I haven't talked about it with a little bit of help from Adam. Actually, a lot of help from Adam. Like I wanted to like start a blog. I originally had my blog on Medium, but I found it's sort of inconvenient because again, when I originally started that blog on Medium, I was doing stuff the old way. Like I wasn't using Markdown. I was writing stuff in Word, OneNote, and other stuff. But now I do almost everything in Markdown. And Medium doesn't have good tools to convert your Markdown notes to a blog. So I was looking at different blogs to see like different options to see which one has an easy easy option to convert my markdown notes to blogs. And again, most of the stuff online is too complicated. So originally I found something called mataroa.blog. It's like a minimalistic blog concept. I was again I posted the link here if you want to see. It's like a very minimalistic blog. Okay, there's text, there's images, and that's it. Like there's no JavaScript, there's no widgets, there's nothing fancy. It's like you have a blog, you write stuff, you post it, it directly converts from Markdown. You can just copy your Markdown, whatever you have there, upload images, maybe change the, you have to, obviously when you upload images, you have to change the Markdown syntax slightly to match that new image. But it's like whatever Markdown you have, it's a very, very minimalistic blog. And I was attracted by the concept, but it has its own drawbacks. It's not at all configurable. You can't change anything. But again, that's the whole point of that Matara.blog. It's like, it's very minimalistic. It makes you focus only on writing. Okay, what do you want to tell your audience? What do you want to blog about? It's like very good concept. Like I was very attracted by it. So I made a blog for myself on that initially, but I found it is like, I wanted something more. Like it had just a little bit lacking for me. I wanted a little bit of, again, I'm a tinkerer, so I want to tinker with the blog, and I couldn't do it. And also there's no way to like upload notes automatically to Matara.blog. You have to do it via their own web interface. So I wanted something where I can do everything on my own system, like write locally, like build my site locally. So I was looking into different options. I think the most popular one is Hugo, but apparently over the years they've kept on adding more features, so it's a lot bloated. I think Hugo is the most popular static site generator we have right now, but it has been becoming more bloated, so I wanted more minimal. So I've looked at something called Zola. Zola is created by a guy who was frustrated with Hugo, so he wrote his own static site generator in Rust. Again, it seems Rust is the happening thing, so all cool apps are written in Rust now. So this is like a static site generator in Rust. Again, right now I don't have too many things on my blog. It's just like a first post and like about and now and all that stuff. So it's around like 4 or 5 pages. But it's super fast. It built my site in like 200 milliseconds. Like it's so damn fast. So here is my blog, and I'll also send links for Zola. So if you have like a simple like Markdown structure, like you have to obviously change it slightly to fit the way Zola likes it, but it's like you can very easily create a blog. You're just using Markdown, using Zola, and they have their own themes. So you can look at the themes they have. You can just download. It's like a Git. You just need to add like a Git submodule to your own, your blog folder, and it's super easy to like create a new blog. And then if you want to self-host, like, and you can look at Nginx and just run up a server on your system. And then what I've used, again, Adam helped me through it. It's using Cloudflare tunnel. So if you are if you're running a server on a particular port, you can connect that port to your website using Cloudflare tunnels. So Cloudflare tunnels are a cool thing. Again, there are several parts to this blog. Again, first writing the blog in Markdown, then building your own in Zola, using Zola, and then hosting it locally using Nginx, and then connecting that Nginx instance to your actual website. So there are multiple things. It's not a single part, there are multiple parts, but it was cool, really cool, like doing this. It took me like 2-3 weeks to set this up, but it was really cool because I learned a whole bunch of things like actually trying to set this up, because again, I told you, right, it's not a single thing. It's like multiple parts. But it was really cool.
That is cool. So I will add that to the show notes for after the fact so people can explore your blog. It's sradjoker.cc.
Yep. No, it's blog. So
Yeah,
you just go to sravan.cc, nothing happens because I haven't linked that to anything else.
Okay.
But this blog
Blog
instead,
dot-
so it's
yeah.
like, yep.
Excellent. I want to welcome a few people who hopped in. Had Linux Ninja. I don't know if your mic is working, but hello and welcome. Anthony, hello and welcome to Linux Saloon. Got a fancy background there. Be a little bit louder. Be helpful on my editing later. And Shickle, welcome back. Did you have to run out to your car?
I made a mistake. I was fiddling with an app that automatically cleans memory, and it did that by killing Zoom. So
So it's a smart app.
yeah, if you want to save memory, just close Zoom. It's
Perfect.
didn't need it.
Yeah. All right, so I was gonna say, looking at Zola, it does seem very Spartan. Although I like that you have a dark mode on your blog. But whatever it takes, I guess. Are you doing any inline images? Because I didn't see any.
No, but you can pretty easily. Like in Markdown, it's like a Markdown, right? Like
Okay.
you can just like a normal Markdown image, you can just have that image because you're building it locally. It'll just generate an HTML page with that image.
Okay. That's interesting. Yep. So I don't know if this is the easier way or if WordPress is the easier way, but this is definitely a way. And I was looking, so it looks like the I still see the octothorpes in front of each of your headings, at least in my browser, or hashtags as some people call them, or pound signs.
What do you mean?
Looking at your My Linux Journey 1 WSL.
Yeah, it's just hashtag means it's just the way
Heading.
the theme works. It's just a theme.
Okay, I got you.
It's just one post, but this theme, like it depends on theme. It automatically organizes according to like tags, and you can see if you're on my blog, you can see on the top. I'll post a link in the YouTube chat too for people. It's like this is a like Archie theme. Again, if you see the bottom of my blog, you can see the theme where it comes from. Again, there are several themes, and the thing is that if you're good enough at coding, you can probably create your own theme.
Sure.
And again, the thing is, this is minimalistic compared to Hugo. Hugo is the most popular thing right now, but it seems the developers have been adding more and more features. So the themes have become more complicated. So normal users can't edit them anymore. Like they can't fiddle with it. Like they can't customize it. But this theme, like it's Archie Zola, but I have customized it a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. You can fiddle with it. But in Hugo, like again, I've read several blog posts about why Hugo is so bloated right now, and many people are switching to simpler things because apparently the themes have become so complicated because of the all additional features they have to support.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing as you generate more content how it works out for you. So I'm expecting a follow-up on this at some point in time, Sravan.
Yep.
All right, so we are down an Eris today. Apparently he's somewhere on Victory Road hunting for Pokemon. I don't really know what he said. I don't understand it. It was very brief. So I guess we'll move on. He did a straw poll in the Matrix and in the Telegram. The question was, which desktop environment do you like the most? So in Telegram, 3% said Budgie, 3% said Cinnamon, 41% said Gnome Shell, 23% for Plasma, 3% for LXQt, same for Mate. Nobody said Pantheon Elementary OS, which surprises me. 15% said XFCE, and 3% said a window manager, which they will tell you it's not a desktop environment, but okay. And then 3% said other. Please reply with other, and please add some details. One reply is, I always default to XFCE. The other DEs I tried, I don't fancy them. I wonder if he held his pinky out when he said that. I don't fancy them or a window manager. Hence, I always run XFCE only. The level of customizability, ease of use, lightweight, and easy to get used to get used to. It's understandable. XFCE is very customizable. In fact, I think it does a great job with that. Another one said classical LXDE. Probably the last guy or gal. My first preference is GNOME, but I also really like KDE, XFCE, Cinnamon, and Pantheon. I wouldn't consider any of them so bad that I couldn't work on them. I agree. I'm currently using Cosmic from Pop! OS on my laptop and GNOME on my desktop. And then another reply. Honestly now, XFCE, GNOME, and KDE. I've lost my love for Mate and how hard it is to theme. And some sad face emojis. GNOME and KDE tie for second. Mate or i3 Sway. I like XFCE, but stopped using it forever ago. I wonder how long is forever. What would you say forever it would be, like in this context? 3 months? A year? 2 years? I don't know.
12 months.
12 months. Okay, 12 months forever in the tech world. Then another reply. It's somewhat edifying that my number 1 and number 2 choices are also number 1 and number 2 above, respectively, but I'm surprised Plasma isn't making a better showing so far. I don't personally care for it, but I do usually hear lots of love for it from the community. I agree. I think the problem is the Plasma people didn't come out to vote. And the last reply was, it was a debate between KDE, Budgie, Cinnamon, and XFCE for me. I've used and liked them all, but if I'm picking just one, it'd be KDE with XFCE as a close second. In Matrix, somebody corrected it. I put 12% for GNOME Shell, when it's actually 12.5%. Then 50% for Plasma, 12.5% for a window manager, and 25% for other. And please reply with more details. And I didn't. The replies are LXDE required small amount of RAM and its integrated environment. Another one was River Window Manager with a smiley face. Another was Unity. And the last one was KDE or GTFO with a laughing emoji. So that I think I know who put that one on there. Do you think this is a pretty accurate poll, or do you think maybe some people just didn't vote? I'm surprised there wasn't more love for Pantheon.
I could only vote for one.
Well, there's that. Maybe it should have been like top 3. I don't know if you can do that in Telegram or Matrix. If you can do like vote for up to like a certain number, because that'd be kind of good. For me, it'd only be KDE. That's XFCE. I think would be a second for me.
Like I think Pantheon has less votes because it doesn't work well outside of elementary OS. Like if you try Pantheon on Arch, it's not good.
Typically it's a one sort of unified experience.
Yes.
Which is honestly, if they had an immutable file system, I'd be using it.
So what made KDE appeal to you so much?
For me,
Yes.
I personally feel like the KDE Plasma, everything feels more consistent than anything else. So as far as like they work really hard on the Plasma team to ensure that the theme carries through on other toolkits. They make some special effort on that. Although it was broken again with GTK4, so I'm sure they'll get around to it eventually. The fact that it's very customizable, because I'm a little bit of a tinkerer, so I'm never really happy. I shouldn't say happy. I'm happy, but I'm never really satisfied with like just the default. I make a little tweak here, and then I become dissatisfied again, so I make another little tweak, and then so it just kind of rolls that way. So in other desktop environments, I don't have that kind of luxury, so I can't make those same kinds of tweaks as easily. And you know, the adding different widgets too. There's a couple of widgets that I use that I like to have that just system monitor stuff, so I can see what my CPUs are doing if they're freaking out and so forth. I like the general layout of it. Curse windows for introducing this style of an interface where everything's on the bottom. I like that. So I can, if I want to check if something is weird, I just look down and see if there's anything weird going on. And and it's a very quick, my eyes are very well trained to look at the bottom to see what's going on. I know you can do those customizations to GNOME, I think to some degree with extensions, but to me that's a little bit of a ropey experience. You know, kind of go with the how they want things. Like I like my system tray. And I know XFCE, I like it because you can do all that with XFCE as well. Plasma just tends to just kind of spit it out the easiest way for me to consume. And I like all the buttons and knobs and everything else. So like my window borders, I've added a lot more buttons on top because there's other features I want to be able to click on and be able to activate, like keep above and keep below, because that's something I use. In fact, I use it to do this stream. I have OBS set. I just click real quick to keep above. I know you can do a right click, and there's probably shortcuts for every other desktop environment, I'm sure. But I can't remember those things, so if I have a little visual cue, I can take care of that real quick.
Nate, tell us the real reason. It's the cube, right?
Wow.
I don't actually use the cube. I use the slider. I actually switched to the slider probably about 10 years ago because reasons. Like the background slides. I like that. And then you can change how things slide too. You can have the wallpaper slide with, or you can lock the wallpaper so it doesn't slide. And so just the windows slide, and then you can make it so there's a lot of like different ways of handling it. And also I find multi-monitor support on Plasma was the best experience of all the desktop environments over the years. That was the other reason.
I like when Chickle said that change is hard. That's true. I know getting started first on GNOME 2 back in those days, goodness gracious. And then using Mate. I mean, I was excited when Mate came out because I wasn't feeling Unity. And so over the years, just using Mate was a familiar experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why using anything else was such a jarring thing, like something to get used to. It's like even with Budgie, it's still an adjustment to do something different. Or when I was dealing with i3 OpenBox, I mean, there's a variety of stuff that I've tried over the years, and Mate just seems to be tried and true. What works for me in particular.
So what are you using right now? I'm sorry, did I miss it? Are you still Mate?
So I have Mate on my PC. Excuse me, and on my T420, I'm running Solus with Budgie, and then on the other machine I've used that forever, but that has Debian with Mate.
So you're kind
So
of
mostly
a
Mate.
GTK desktops a la carte. That's kind of how you roll right now.
Pretty much, and that's been working out for me. I used to be more adventurous when it came to dealing with the desktop, things like wobbly windows, making the fire effects. I mean, that was real cool. The desktop cube, that was stuff that I did early on that made it more interesting. Getting started with Linux, just making it look crazy, and then showing it to people. They're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool, man. I like that." So that's pretty much the background there.
I keep the wobbly window still. So right now, I still get the wobbly. It's a slight wobbly effect, not crazy like I used to do. I think I've matured a little bit, and I don't need to have like latex windows. So it's more like I don't know, just rubber, maybe a harder rubber. But
I love wobbly windows.
there's something really fun about it. I don't know why. Like when you get really mad, like I kind of wish, like if not to say that I've ever done this, but let's say I had a meeting where someone irritated me, I would just like shake the window around a little bit, and then I'd smile, and nobody would know, but I would feel better.
Nate, do you use Magic Lamp too?
I sure do.
Okay. KDE standard features wobbly windows, Magic Lamp. What else?
Mm-hmm.
That's it, right? Most
Uh,
users have this on.
I have my terminal is slightly translucent, so I can see what's below it. I like it. I don't.
It's console settings, right? That's not KDE settings.
Yeah, it's part of the it's part of the whole thing. And then the slide effect, and my boy likes the when you close it, everything blows up, but I don't use that one. That's a little extreme for me.
What is the slide effect again? Is when you switch desktops or?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice sliding effect. And then if I lock a window to be on multiple desktops, which is another button I have active, then it's nice to have like that one just stay put while everything else slides around it. Yeah, depending on like what I'm doing, like on my laptop, one of my side hustles, I have I use a Google Chromium profile for a specific business function essentially. And so that those functions live on one desktop, and like one virtual desktop. And so just being able to move things around, based on the task that I'm doing is very handy. Does anybody miss Unity?
Yeah, I miss it so much. I wouldn't want to use it today. Honestly, every time I see it, I kind of choke a little bit because it looks like, I mean, it looks like it's old because it is, and I don't really fully understand keeping it around and just beating the dead horse, but I really do miss it. Back when it was alive, it was really cool.
So then my
Oof.
question is, what would it take to make Unity something you would use? Like, what would have to change about it?
Mm.
What's it missing? Because I hear that a lot. It feels dated. Now, to me, 2018 is not that long ago, but
Well, 2018 is when they made it EOL, right? That wasn't when it like that. It hadn't really seen major changes.
oh sure, yeah, 2017 I think
Before
maybe.
then.
2017 is when they made the announcement, right?
Yeah, but I think like that design predates that by quite a bit. It had looked that way for a few years before then as well. But I think global menus don't work properly the way they used to because that's been deprecated in a lot of places. Something Unity did have that was really good. Unity had the best display scaling and adjustment that any desktop had at the time. They were really on top of things where every other desktop was not. If that's still really good, I would love to keep that. I think the dash was really cool. I think the yeah, global menus as cool as they are in Linux, they're very broken right now. That would either have to be fixed or be ripped out. Dynamic workspaces would have to be a thing. That would have to work kind of like the way GNOME does. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but it'd be kind of weird not to. Most desktops can do that well. Yeah, overall, general redesign. I mean, those icons, anytime somebody's like, wow, Windows 7 looks great, it did 10, 15 years ago. It really did. It does not. It looks like it performs on a Core 2 Duo. Like that's the kind of way I would describe that aesthetic. Is arrow glass, 3D transparency everywhere. I mean, it's a look for sure.
Mhm.
It does not look the way I think it should. If it was to be deployed in 2022, absolutely nothing would fit in with it whatsoever. Apps would not look the way they should in that kind of environment. So basically, a complete redesign.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
you're saying is the Windows 7 glassy look, it's not the Converse All Stars of desktop environments where it's a classic and always works.
Yeah, it was a great thing when it was a great thing. I don't really think there's any apps that are like actively developed today that would coincide with that kind of desktop. Like, don't get me wrong, not all apps theme the same way as the desktop they're in, but that is like an era transcending difference, not just like a slight like a difference in like aesthetic tastes. It is a time issue more than anything. It's like using Windows 2000. Like, yeah, I mean it was cool when it was cool. It does not look right.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Why do you think Mate doesn't feel that way? Like I use Mate on on my Raspberry Pi, even though it has the same look since like forever. Like it doesn't feel dated. It looks modern. Like whenever I have like simple themes on it, like you can theme it pretty easily. Any GTK3 theme will work. Like, why do you think Mate looks more modern, even though it's probably older than Unity?
Well, it's based on GTK3, so it's not older. It's been continually updated. Not to speak out of
It's
turn
just
here.
updated, but the vanilla look is still like from 2010. Like what Shigal is saying, it's like even not 2018. It's like the vanilla look is 2010, but you can make it, but it feels more modern. Like
I think Mate switched to Yaru now, right? Don't they have like
They
a
have.
Yaru Mate theme? It looks really nice.
At least Ubuntu Mate does.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. I forgot that's not like a
No,
universal thing.
I use the Tokyo Night theme. Again, I'm a dark theme guy, so I even tried Dracula. Like all of the themes are really good, and it looks really modern.
I like how on the back of Mark's chair, it's that Batman logo. I don't know if anyone can see that. That's pretty cool. Now-
Nah, I'm okay. Okay.
We're gonna have to ask Mark that you talk like Batman from the Dark Knight from this point forward. Always groveling, grovelly sounding.
This is the Dark Knight edition
Oh.
chair, Secret Labs. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
RIP Unity.
So tonight is an open mic night. That means we're going to take topics from anywhere around the world. I'd say internet, but it could be an in real life thing as well that maybe you're pulling in from. So anything we want to talk about, distros, desktop environments, applications, whatever. We can news. It's great. If you want to start some topics to like slower long form topics, you can go to the DLN community forum. So go to tuxdigital.com and click on forums, and it'll take you right there. So the first topic is one brought by Colin, and it's the terminal command duff. So what is this duff business, and what is it that you want to talk about?
I just wanted to let people or make people aware, if you're using terminal command, to check out what disks you have mounted or partitions you have mounted. Duff, D for dog, U, F for Freddy, is just a very simple one, but it looks really nice and it's very readable. So I found it quite handy to just check out, what file systems are mounted and so forth. It's pretty good little tool. So I just thought I'd bring it up. It's nothing special about it, really, to be honest. It's just, I just find it, for me, I'm not normally a terminal person, but it's just as good as a graphical environment, really, just to read what partitions you have. And if you needed to know any information about it, it's quite simple. So I just thought I'd bring it up. Just thought it was something worthwhile bringing up in my books anyway.
So I think somebody supplied a link to linuxhint.com. Use duff command in Linux. So there's a snap install for duff utility. Oh, I see it. It kind of builds columns and such.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's really cool.
So the way visually how it displays it's very readable.
Yes, very visually good to look at and to be able to read. And sometimes I think I was just a graphical person when I first joined Linux, but sometimes I find the terminal can be more simple and accurate in the things you want to look at than what a graphical environment can be sometimes. Just depends, but that one's a really good one. So I just thought it was worthwhile bringing up.
I've kind of gone the same way too. Like when I first started in Linux, I had zero interest in the terminal. Well, that's not true. I had a very low percentage of interest in the terminal. But as I don't know, the more I use
Progressed.
it, the more I don't know if progressed is the right word. I don't think that I've really progressed. I think I've made some regressions over time. So
DUF is basically a DF replacement. DF is the original tool. Maybe it's part of GNU corridors. It's Duff is like a modern replacement. So I've been looking at these modern replacement apps. Like instead of ls, I use exa. Instead of du, I use DUA-CLI. They are these modern replacements for the long-standing, long-existing command line tools, which in some cases are better. It's more colorful. If you do DF has no color. If you do DUF, there is color. And all that fancy table stuff.
And if you use DUFF, then you'll quickly find duplicate files.
Is that right?
That's another command. That's fun.
Right.
Well, I like that. Where did you stumble upon this application?
To be honest, I have no idea. I must have been just doing a general YouTube search or something. I don't know. I actually don't know how I stumbled across that one. I must have been doing a search for. Sometimes you get into situations where you're trying to achieve something and you want to look at something simple with your partitions. And sometimes I just find some things can be complicated just to look at partitions. And they're very some applications can be very noisy. Like this, it's an oversaturation of information, and you just want something simple. Maybe I got frustrated and did a Google search for that and came across that. I think that's what I've probably done, because that's what I normally do when I get frustrated and I can't, and something's oversaturated and hard for me to read. I just like it in simple form.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've done a Google search and found that. That's what I do sometimes. I don't like it when things are overcrowded and oversaturated when I'm just looking for something very simple. My brain can't cope with it sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I find, even for me, that if something isn't displayed well, or if it's just too much text kind of crammed together, like it kind of turns into just a wall of text, and I can't really decipher it. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but like sometimes if I open up a book and I look, like I can't. It's like I was listening to country music or something and I forget how to read, you know?
Well, I have the ls command in the terminal where you see all the files that are in a directory, or like within a directory. I've started using tree, even if I'm not like it basically sort of like branches out. Like you still see the files all listed next to each other, but you could also see like directories and subdirectories too, so you could see inside folders. I think it's just a nicer way of looking at files in the terminal, so I recommend that.
Tree, just tree. Is that the command?
Yeah,
tree.
Just tree.
Right.
People like exa has a tree subcommand. You can try that, like exa -- tree. You can get the same thing. The good thing with
Nice.
exa, it has nerd fonts. So if you actually do exa, like all the files are like, if it is a folder, it will show the folder icon. If it is a file, it will show the file icon. It's like, again, it's more colorful. And I found most of these tools in the link I posted in the YouTube chat. It's from itsfoss.com. It's like modern replacements for legacy Linux commands.
That's very nice.
That I found most of the stuff there, and then I started like downloading all of them and trying them out. And again, there's several of these, so maybe we can have an episode on like discussing these commands. Like, it's really cool. Like if you feel terminal is boring, these commands are, again, and some of these commands have more, like some of these commands have less features than the legacy commands. For example, exa doesn't have all the features ls has. It's not meant to be a complete replacement, but in some cases, these commands have more features. For example, if you do like du, you just have like a whole bunch of like lines. But if you do dua, which is a short form of DUSCLI, there's an interactive mode in which you can go into subdirectories, and it's slightly more feature rich.
I put that in my follow-up notes. Maybe we'll do like a terminal fun night at the Linux Saloon. Bring your favorite terminal somethings, terminal tips and tricks, or terminal what makes terminal fun. Go ahead.
Sorry, Shickle just reminded me of like there used to be a floppy disk, I think, in Windows. I'm probably showing my age here, but they used to have they used to have things like in a tree, set out in a tree structure. I can't remember what it was called. I can't remember where I put my floppy disk now.
I think I vaguely remember seeing a National Geographic documentary on that.
Under like ancient historical finds.
Oh man.
It may be called tree in Windows. And it's still there.
Maybe.
And
I
it
think
is
it
maybe.
You can do
Thanks so
graphical
much for
trees.
making me feel old, Shickle. Oh my goodness. Because I remember, so in the first grade, we had the computers, and oh God, it's not even the three, it's the big disk that we used to have that you slide into the computer. And
Oh,
then you
wow.
run your game or do whatever.
Yeah, the
Like,
big
that's what I'm
5.5.
Oh, yeah.
that's
five
what
and a
I'm
quarter
trying
inch.
to say.
Remember
Like,
right.
yeah, the big giant jokers.
Ooh.
Like we thought we was doing
Yeah.
something with the other discs.
I'm just barely old enough for floppy disks, but I'm the kind of old enough for floppy disks where when we saved stuff on floppy disks, it was actually Flash games. So it's definitely a melding of the generations because we would save our game files from internet like Flash games onto floppy disks because we were just barely funded enough to have computers that could play Flash games, but not funded enough to do something better that to have like USB saves for everything. So it was good.
Oh God, USB changed everything. We
Mhm.
we would do like games and I mean I'd be in class playing Super Nintendo games on a computer, you know, just having the time of my life, and people looking at me like I'm some kind of god or something. You know,
That's
just something
funny.
my cousin taught me how to do. You know, you just had multiple discs that you used, and I'm over there playing Fantasy Star or Super Mario World. Oh, I don't feel like playing Super Mario World. Let's play some Sonic. Like, they're like, how do you do that on the computer? Oh, hey, it's me.
So
Oh,
Linux Ninja has been very quiet because he is a Linux Ninja, but he has said some interesting options. He says he uses find instead of tree, but LS has a recursive option -capital
it
R.
does.
The tree command goes all the way back to early versions of DOS. He says he thinks DOS version 2 introduced subdirectories, and I think when we first saw the tree command. So I was going to say, speaking of ancient and floppy, Adam, you haven't said anything, but welcome to Linux Saloon. I don't know if your mic is working or not, but I do appreciate
Should
you
be,
showing.
yeah. Should be working, right? You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
hear me?
yeah. Perfect. And your volume is great. So it's less editing for me. I'm really glad you're here.
Good
Did you
times.
use floppy disks in school?
I did, and I have many zeros acquired because they didn't work.
Okay.
Like a
Not-
lot of times where a teacher would be like, "Yeah, you're not gonna get credit for this this assignment because I can't open it because the floppy failed."
Ooh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Can you buy external floppy disks today and put them on a?
Yeah,
Yes.
you can buy like external floppy drives.
Can you? I've never
So actually
even looked,
just
to be
I
honest.
discovered that a lot of the older floppies that I acquired, like ones from late 80s and early 90s, were a lot more reliable than the ones in the late 90s and 2000s that I was using for
Mm.
school. So I like sacrificed some old floppies with various bits of software on them to use for school so that I can not fail classes. It's a devastating price to pay, really.
Yeah. Like, it's okay. We used to disassemble them and then use the actual floppy disk as like little ninja stars. We'd throw them at each other. It was very safe.
That's beautiful.
You got to use the
actually.
little foam insert thing as like a napkin or something.
Oh, I used to take the little metal door off and cut it and then open a master combination lock.
It was only about
I wish I was kidding.
10 or 12 years ago. Floppy's already pretty much out of use, but I had this job, not important who the employer was, and there was a coworker of mine that I found him irritating, and he would always make these demands, and he thought he was in charge of things, and he really wasn't. But he wanted all these documents by the end of a certain period. He said he wanted them on his desk, or he wanted on his accessible to him on his computer, like by the end of the day or whatever. And the network was down, and we couldn't use USB drives. And I happened to find a box of floppy disks, so I copied all the data onto a series of like 8 or 12 floppy disks, something like that. And I handed it to him. I had one of the few computers that still had a floppy drive in it. This is Windows 7 era, so it was they were pretty much phased out. He looks at me and says, "What am I supposed to do with this?" I said, "Those are your files." He said, "You wanted them by the end of the day. Here they are." He said, "What am I supposed to do with this?" I said, read them. And then I walked out of his office. And he never asked me, he never gave me a time hack ever again on something. So that was very nice. And so
Very nice.
did anybody here ever use the 8-inch floppies? Because that's actually before my time. So Jen, did you use 8-inch floppies? How?
Well, my friend had them. One of his computers that he was using had it, and you had to literally hold on to them very carefully to put them in because you could bend them very easily.
Were they
So
any more?
I got to experience it.
Were they any more floppy, or like compared to the 5 1/4 inch? Was it about the same floppiness, but just bigger and so more unwieldy?
It was very, very much the same, just bigger and unwieldy.
Okay.
Still had it was almost the same form. It was just a bigger size.
Yeah, I've never even touched one or seen one. I have seen pictures and I've watched YouTube videos of like on Adrian's digital basement, seeing him work or repair a drive, which is amazing. The drives themselves look like they are an electrical hazard because I think the lights dimmed when he turned it on. I don't know, but I thought it was pretty wild. In my college years, I had to use I think it was a zip disk at some point for storing the data, like using the school computers. Anybody here ever use zip disks or still have a zip disk reader?
I
Yeah,
got two of them
did,
kicking
yeah.
I
around
know
here
of
somewhere.
them.
That's a name drop. I
Yeah,
remember
I know.
seeing those in the store, but I've never ever used them. I went straight from the floppy disk to USB drive, and
Okay.
that's like a
I had
big
a Zip
difference.
100 on a Power Mac G4, and
Whoa!
yeah, it failed when you looked at it. So yeah, they were super unreliable. It was you'd have better odds in Vegas. Just put it that way.
Yeah, nostalgia for me is when I was in school, we would put files in briefcases instead of zipped folders or zip archives. I don't really know what a briefcase was either. That's just how they told us to do it. Microsoft said, "Here's a briefcase," and we would use it.
The idea was
Yeah,
you would
remember-
treat the disk like a
remember I was-
briefcase, and so you put your
Yep.
stuff in there, and so it was like a crude synchronizing thing. So then you could take it home and we'd bring it back, and then it would
Makes
update or
sense.
something like that.
It would
That's why
automatically
every
update.
time-
I brought this up. Remember briefcase? I brought this up a little while ago. When we were
Yeah,
talking about,
you're right.
and it did. You take it home, you work on something, and it would automatically update. I don't know if you had to click anything, but it would update the briefcase, and then you take it with you, and then you could work on it wherever else you went. It was very.
Right
it was
before they
one of the most
removed that, I used it to
don't know.
synchronize my Minecraft save files. And I couldn't create new briefcases at a certain point in Windows because they removed it, but they still worked if they already existed. And so I had CDs that had these on them. And so I would use those to contain all. I didn't really fully understand how it worked either. Like I don't really know what the system is underneath all of it. But that was like the main method of storage for half of my files that I ever had.
It was a handy little application, actually, I must say.
I wonder why they got rid of that.
The internet, you can synchronize stuff with cloud.
Yeah.
Lost and overwritten data. That does sound about right.
So Ron Singh in the chat says 8-inch floppies were very reliable. They had low data density. I can't recall how much each side would hold. I think there was also a high density version as well. I think I could be wrong. So it's fun to see if I may say, the old timers. No offense. Talk about their experiences in the chat. That's a lot of fun. So Kurt says our PDP-11 had a dual floppy 8-inch. Says they had 128 kilobyte capacity, system and assembler compiler on one data storage on the other. Computer had 16 kilobytes of RAM and no hard drive.
Ooh.
What are the PDP? Is it like the precursor to the PSP? No. Oh, high density was 5 1/4. There we go. I like it. This is great.
We can have a Linux Saloon show and tell.
We should. Maybe we can get people who have old hardware that can bring it to the saloon and show us the fun things. Yeah, I never had the
Listen.
click of death for the zip disk. I wasn't sure. Was it the drive that would fail, or was it
Yeah.
the? Okay.
It's the drive, I think.
I think
It's
the oldest piece
amazing.
of equipment I have is an original NES. That's about it.
Wow.
That's still cool.
Yeah,
Speaking
you
of
can
original
run Doom
NES,
on it.
you can. There's
Saw
a Doom
somebody
port
do
for
it.
it now.
It's a Doom port for everything.
The only modification I did to it was pulling out pin 4 on the lockout chip, but that was actually not to play pirated games, but it's because that chip fails really easily.
Yep.
And if you could just
Oh.
bypass that chip, then it can solve a lot of problems with NES
That's
decks.
hilarious. That's
don't get
really
the-
funny.
The green,
Get that
the green
blinking-
screen. Yeah.
Yeah, and the blinking red light. Yeah, you just bypass the lockout chip, and it generally solves that problem.
I used some deoxit to mitigate it, and it seemed to work pretty well.
I think that's so funny that particular method of like sort of like pseudo lockout, like a physical lockout for software based stuff is kind of like was still a thing for a while. Like Chromebooks used to have that. Like if you could open a Chromebook up and remove like a little piece of it, like disconnect it, there's like a little switch that you could hit, and then suddenly you could basically just take the Chromebook out of like a lockdown mode. You could like basically do whatever you want to it. I don't really know why that's a thing that like people did. Like I guess on the NES it kind of was a little more, I don't know, reasonable.
Yeah, writing like software for DRM kind of things back then would have been prohibitive because like everything was kind of small storage and all that back then. I mean, an NES cart, like even the biggest ones really weren't that big.
Yeah.
Not to mention it would require each software developer and publisher to write their own, and yeah, it was just easier to include a chip.
On those older games, every byte mattered. Quite literally, every byte mattered. Like they had to be very, very careful about the memory usage. My oldest right now is on this kick, I guess you want to say, where he only wants to play old games on original hardware. I don't know where he gets that weirdness from, but
Can't possibly figure that out.
I have no idea. I don't know anybody around him that has vintage tech. But he wants a Game Boy, the Game Boy Light or something like that. That's what he really wants. Like that's what he wants
The
for
Japanese
Christmas.
one?
Yeah. He wants these obscure pieces of old hardware that I don't even know about.
He wants a Game Boy.
He wants a Game Boy. He doesn't want a remade Game
Wow.
Boy Color. He wants a Game Boy, a real genuine Game Boy.
Oh.
So yeah,
He's an
as
11-year-old.
somebody who is, getting into retro stuff more and more, be prepared to shell out some cash, my friend.
Oh my goodness.
Retro stuff
Yeah.
is so
I-
expensive
I-
right now.
I remember playing that when I was like 8. God, I feel ancient now. Yeah, that's wow. I mean, I still have my original Super Nintendo from when I was 8. All these years later, so it's crazy. Wow.
I do have a bunch of carts. So he wants to play the Pokemon series, specifically Pokemon Green, which is in Japanese. And he was trying to learn the symbols and everything too, trying to understand the written language. I'm like, good luck, buddy. I'll give you all the resources you want. Here's a phone with Google Translate. So anyway, he likes the old stuff for some reason.
I just posted a link in the Zoom chat. It's a Twitter post, and there's like a slab of stacked like old PlayStation memory cards. Like it's like a foot wide by a foot wide and half a foot tall or whatever. And people are like asking how many gigabytes it is, and it's like 64
megs.
megabytes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's
Oh, jeez.
it's ridiculous. I love that tweet so much.
Yeah, I recently came really close to pulling the trigger on a copy of Ikaruga for the Dreamcast, but I was like, I don't think I want to spend $90 on a game, so I didn't. a lot of retro stuff is really expensive.
Yeah.
Especially GameCube right now for some reason. Like it's about, a lot of the like more sought after games are $100 to $300 each. Yeah, it gets kind of nuts. And these aren't like necessarily super rare games. They're just really highly priced. Once the pandemic started in 2020, everything retro just shot up crazy in price. Games you used to be able to get for $10, $15 are now like 70 to 90.
I had somebody buy an unopened Wii from the year 2007 from me for $800
Yeah.
because they just
It's-
really wanted it. I wasn't intending on selling it, and the numbers kept going higher, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, there
Take
are
it.
a lot of there are a lot of outside people getting into retro gaming as a sort of asset, like a store of value. Like they look at the distorted prices if you see like WATA rated games and stuff that are like hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that's actually kind of been revealed to be a bit of a scam in itself. But
Boy.
yeah, a lot of people who would normally invest in like baseball cards or comics or Magic the Gathering cards and stuff like that, they're looking at retro games as like a way of, oh well, this only goes up in price. This is a store of value, as it were.
Oh God.
And yeah, they've driven a lot of the prices up. And the people who actually want to play the games are like, well, that sucks for us.
This is exactly why art costs 3 million per painting.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah.
The problem with that form of holding value is that electronics, they tend to, especially if they have moving parts, mechanical parts, optical drives and whatnot, they don't hold up over time. The mechanical components do fail. If you don't know how to fix them or maintain them or clean them, then it's basically gonna be kind of worthless. Not usable unless it's like for museum purposes, but yeah, I don't know. That seems really odd. But hey, who am I to judge, right?
Well, it's actually gotten basically where people who want to play the games generally just buy like a flash cart or an ODE or something and just play
Yep.
ROMs and ISOs because it's prohibitively expensive. And I'll go on record to say it. I don't mind software. I don't mind game piracy if it means that somebody can play it instead of spending $300 because somebody wants to gouge them on the price of the game. It's like, you know what? Go ahead and download your game. Save $300. The developer's not getting that money anyway. So
No.
Right.
No.
The
This is-
developer might not even be alive.
yeah, exactly.
Back in the 70s, they lived pretty hard.
Get
Just
that
generally.
Atari money.
Yeah.
But you're talking about the things failing. Like the disc rod is a thing too, especially with Sega CD games. A lot of those were like printed on like really crappy CDs to begin with, and a lot of Sega CD games just don't work anymore because they've just deteriorated so much.
I've seen like the actual disc itself, the film, like lifting off and
Mhm.
separating. It is horrifying.
And some of the cheaper PS1 games are starting to do that too. You look at the disc and they're kind of foggy. It looks like, oh, like there's just something I need to wipe off, but it can never be wiped off.
Gosh.
Oh no.
It looks like
The
that.
Se-
Yeah.
The Sega CD, I remember I got that one back in the day. And oh my goodness, Sonic CD. I will never forget that game. It is wow. That time was just interesting.
Yeah. I hope that people archived those games and such because
Yeah.
I view old, retro games, whatever you call them that, as pieces of art that should be preserved.
Absolutely.
And digital art, I think I've probably given a diatribe about this before, but I find that those are fun things to revisit, and if they've been archived, now, there's a lot of stuff on archive.org. I don't know how legal it is, but I appreciate the fact that they're there because it's stuff that's hard to get. An old iPhone.
Oh, it's an old Windows phone. Every time
Oh.
this is like my most prized piece of old tech. Is this still fully functional with the exception of Microsoft servers going down? This was my first smartphone. If you exclude the LG Voyager, the one that like flipped open and had the side keyboard, I guess you could call that a smartphone, but yeah, good times.
Yeah, there are a lot of efforts to preserve these old things, and not just from a perspective of keeping copies of ROMs and ISOs, but also things like the MAME project, where their main you can use MAME to play arcade games, sure, but the main point of the project was to archive and preserve arcade boards, that the circuitry and how arcade boards work, and the inner workings of those, because eventually those are gonna fail, and certainly not making more arcade machines. But
I got a name
projects
drop.
exist. Yeah,
Sega Channel.
yeah, a lot of those have been preserved, but yeah,
I've noticed this also happens a lot in the music industry, especially if you look at like electronic keyboards over the years. There's certain ones where like the actual tone generators like have not been reproduced, and if you have some of these original boards, they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars because they can produce sounds that no other board has been able to synthesize, and they just don't make them anymore. And I think I don't even know who it is. I think some like electronic artist has like a whole bunch of boards like this too, where like some of them are like a couple $1 million in value, just because no one else can make like the exact sound that that board can make. It's like a very specific way that that functioned, and like it's just impressive to me because like this happens with, like you said, like arcade games. Like it's not even just like the idea of the game itself, it's the actual physical existence of how that logic works.
I know that the SID chip for the Commodore 64, there have been projects that it takes like a whole ARM chip to basically emulate it in real time. Like they've actually programmed an ARM chip. It's called an ARM SID or something like that. There's another like Swin SID that uses some other chip set, but it where there's such effort being made to emulate the SID chip sound and how all the filters and everything else, do their thing. And there are people who are very picky about like, no, it just doesn't sound right. I don't hear the difference myself, but some people can actually hear the difference. I think that's cool that there's that much like for these things for sure.
Now you mentioned that there's a project called MD Fourier. It's originally the project was to try to map exactly correctly the audio reproduction of Genesis and Mega Drive consoles.
Oh,
but it kind of grew to a larger project to kind of preserve audio from not just from a subjective view that we might have, but an objective like computational view to get the audio right for things like emulators or FPGAs and things like that, to make sure that the audio is correct to the original source. But even the hardware, the audio was different. Like a Model 1 Genesis sounds different than a Model 2, and some Model 1s sound different from other Model 1s, and just kind of trying to preserve what's accurate about each of those. And it's a pretty complicated project, like way beyond my knowledge, but I thought it was pretty neat.
I think that's very cool. There was an episode of the 8-Bit Guy from some years back where he goes into how sound was generated on the Nintendo, I think the Game Boy as well, and then like how it compared to like the Commodore 64 and the voices and how they were able to make different sounds based on like the sawtooth, square wave, and something else. But anyway, I thought it was just, or noise, I think noise generator. So I think that stuff is really cool. And the fact that there's work being done to preserve all that, I think is absolutely awesome.
Anyway, now that everyone's bored.
No, I think I wasn't. So a topic from the discourse forum, and I guess that was my cue to segue. How important is the wallpaper to a system setup? When you first install a thing, how important is the wallpaper to you? Is that a big deal? Is it something that
I will say that the Ubuntu Hippo release wallpaper did make me want to use the software. Just saying.
For a totally different reason than intended.
I feel like I got jebaited, but you know what? It got my attention.
The jammy jellyfish background is great
Oh yeah.
in LX or in Ubuntu.
This is probably maybe a slightly controversial opinion, because I know a lot of people will say that like the wallpaper doesn't matter, you could just change it. I think the default wallpaper says a few things. One, it says a lot about the actual attention to detail that the people producing that product have and take. Two, it shows how good or awful their taste is. and three, it shows whether or not they actually care about first impressions. And based on those three things, you can be pretty much immediately uncomfortable with something and not want to use it by setting a terrible default wallpaper, or impress the pants off of people and make them actually want to keep looking at it. It's I don't know, it's a little more than just a picture, I think, it's something that like is part of the image of the product you're shipping.
So if they just shipped a black background, how would you feel about that?
I mean, I've used DOS before. It's the same thing, right?
So there's in the forum, a user by Arch Penguin says, yes, it's important for me. I tend to choose dark wallpaper with a dark theme, easy on my old eyes. I like some darker rainbow stuff from time to time as well. I don't know that there's such a thing as darker rainbow, but okay. And then another user, Mr. Asters, I guess, or MR Asters. For me, the wallpaper theming and icons has less than zero relevance on my choice of distro DE. I couldn't care less because I always spend time customizing it to my needs and desires. I have yet to come across a distro that tickles my fancy when it comes to themes and colors. I've tried a lot of them out there.
Well, I have to say, if I was using Elementary, I probably wouldn't change the wallpaper.
Okay.
Right?
Why?
Because I think, I don't know, it just seems, they always seem to choose very relaxing background wallpapers in Elementary. So it doesn't make me want to change it for some reason. But on the other hand, I haven't used Elementary that long. I did back in the early days, but they always seem to choose a very relaxing type wallpaper that fits. Like most people say, when you hear people talk about Elementary, they say, oh, it's a beautiful desktop environment. What makes it beautiful? Is it the wallpaper or is it the way that they structure their themes? What makes it beautiful? A lot of people say that.
I happen to like the OpenSUSE wallpapers. They've used it for a while now, and there's talk in the mailing list about changing it. There's some work on doing that, and I get nervous about that. Like, I don't want a new wallpaper theme because, well, I'm a curmudgeon. But I do remember, this is probably like 10 years ago or so, I really liked, or maybe a lot less than 10 years ago, I really liked the wallpaper and the theming that OpenSUSE used at the time, and then went to something like brighter, and I thought it was just less enjoyable. So actually, I dug out the old wallpaper to use that until they came up with another wallpaper I liked. So I don't know. I like a background that is not distracting, but also interesting, and because I come from a engineering designing background, I like how OpenSUSE has a kind of like a long. It's mostly just kind of a dark green, but has the one side looks like drafting lines and everything else, which in my mind is kind of like the creation of the distribution, the precision and everything else. That's just what it says to me. So I do think a wallpaper, a default wallpaper is important, but how important it is, I don't think it doesn't make or break a distro for me, but it certainly can annoy me. So I think Colin,
it can be very.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it can be very eye-catching when Ubuntu makes new releases, and if the wallpaper's eye-catching, like Adam said, it can sort of make you want to use it just to see that eye-catching wallpaper. I think it can influence people to want to try, at least on some occasions.
Wallpapers can also have the side effect of exposing the flexibility or inflexibility of a desktop as well. Because if you, let's say, load up on a really strange resolution or aspect ratio, and the default setting for it is that wallpaper gets stretched and morphed to the size of that display, it's going to look terrible. And that is definitely not a good first experience. Large wallpapers are important, but wallpapers that probably don't get stretched and bent, also very important.
So a default in Plasma is they have a scaled and cropped, so it doesn't stretch it. It just zooms in on it, essentially. I think
it's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's a safe choice.
It is. There was discussion in the chat about variety in the database of wallpapers, so you never know what you're going to get. And Steve's very own agrees with Kurt on that. And I ran variety for a while. This is like early in my days of Biddle, so 2018 or so. until I started getting images that were questionable in nature, and then I stopped using it. So random from the internet hasn't really worked out well. Like my kids
Like
use my
rolling the
computer.
dice.
Yeah, so I like the safety of a not internet sourced wallpaper.
I have a long history of being very, very picky about my wallpapers and working hard to pick very good ones, but also picking ones that are even better than those and never sharing them with anyone because I'm a horrible person.
I don't know if the not sharing your wallpapers necessarily makes you a horrible person. It just makes you a little bit stingy and
Just a little bit.
a little bit, yeah.
No, I think it's a lot stingy. That's horrible. You have to share your wallpapers.
I share really good ones. I just don't share my best ones.
That's fair. So Colin, like you, Mr. McBride says he likes something scenic, like a beach or mountain theme, perhaps a waterfall. What I really like is when I can find it, a pic that appears to be a path like one walking toward a scene, or a good pic that looks like you're sitting on a private beach. I don't care for pics with other people in it. However, for a login and lock splash screen, I tend to use something with a Linux theme. I think that's fair.
Like Shiko, I'm also like a little bit picky about my wallpapers, but I don't want them like to be too flashy. Like I mostly use like light theme wallpapers because I have dark theme wallpapers because again I have transparency effects on most of the time on my terminals. So if it is like too bright, I can't read text. So, and I find that Endeavors has a really good collection of wallpapers. So I find myself using them even on my Windows machines because they look cool, like the space theme with shuttles and astronauts and stuff. I find that cool. Again, I think Shikal also likes them because he uses a good stat, right? I forgot what that YouTube channel is. Those are really good space wallpapers. I really like them. But apparently you need to pay for the Patreon to get those.
Yeah, there's a lot of them you can download in like lower quality, but I have one wallpaper that's like 15,000 by 8,000 in resolution, and it's like it's rendered out at that resolution. It's not scaled up. You have to pay for that.
I think even 4K you have to pay.
Yeah.
Anything above than HD you have to pay. But like I like the space theme wallpapers, and also I like wallpapers which are like some fantasy theme too. So currently I have like a ninja walking up a what do you say, like a mountain with like other like Chinese style buildings. That's currently what I have on my system right now. It's like I like mostly like fantasy and space themes wallpapers.
A recommendation for people looking for good wallpapers, by the way, Bing image search has really, really good results. I tend to go to Bing first and not Google. So hot tip.
And also DeviantArt, again, if you're looking at fantasy theme wallpapers, DeviantArt is a really good resource for that.
Well, maybe you should share some of those links so I can put them in the description.
There's someone who used to join us on Big Daddy Linux is Carl Schneider.
Mm-hmm.
he has, I think he's on DeviantArt, and also Charlie Henson. He had some really awesome wallpapers. Haven't seen him around for a long time.
Yeah, hopefully they're doing well. All right, so the topic I want to bring up that might be a little bit controversial, maybe not, is are we spending too much time in front of the screen? Like as a society, as you individually? I love technology and I like doing, things on my computer or, old things or, a lot of, I like watching movies every once in a while, watch the YouTubes and so forth. But do you ever feel like maybe, us as nerds are spending too much time in front of the screen?
I honestly do. I remember a time when I was outside a lot more, interacting with people face to face more, and you lose a lot of communication when it's by means of text or people using emojis to convey their emotions to people. Like after a while, it kind of gets old when you're talking about this, and people, they don't, it just like they have forgotten how to talk to people, how to be able to express themselves uh, directly, so to speak. And that's something I think is a major problem right now, to be honest.
Do you ever feel like you're not connecting well with your IRL community, your in real life community, like family or
I've
real friends?
I've discovered that I'm actually just a social butterfly. I can spend as much time as I want in front of a screen, then go out and just do whatever I want, and everything is fine. No, I realized that I would spend like 6 hours a day playing Minecraft for a while there, and that was cool. That was fun. And somehow I didn't end up with blood clots in my legs. Got lucky there. But I stopped doing that. I started spending a lot more time outside, and not I don't know, not to sound old, but I mean the outdoors is kind of nice. There's like stuff out there,
And it's in
you can,
HD.
yeah, it's in HD. You can see it and touch it and stuff. It's really cool. I don't know. I think I've personally just been a lot happier when the majority of my day is me having closed my laptop and walked outside or like gone out with friends even to a movie, like even though it's in front of a screen, it's just interacting directly with people. And that doesn't work for everybody. There's always, there's always the case where like that isn't an acceptable solution for some people. But personally, I am a lot less stressed. Like I don't even look at my notifications. Like when I need to look at something, I'll look at it. Like that's about it. So it's a good time. It's a real good time.
But some of the things that I find that I'm a little concerned about is now for me, I break away from technology quite a lot because I have like a little hobby farm and I like to run, so I run for 4 or 5 kilometers, whatever, even if it's 89 degrees out because I like the heat. There are some people I notice, like kids these days, especially, they're always down. It's like the cell phone look. They're always looking down at their phone and not engaging with people around them. That's not to say, I don't like looking things up. Maybe I like to share a picture. Hey, this is what I did or whatever, because I think that's, using technology to have shared experiences with people in real life. But I wonder if maybe we have like a lack of responsibility with our technology to some level.
This was actually a really big point of tension in my last relationship. And I'm not gonna say names or throw anyone under the bus. Nobody here even knows who I'm talking about, which is kind of yay the internet. There's another factor of doing everything online. But no, a lot of times, I noticed that like I would spend time with someone and like, when you're just around someone in the house, let's say you live together and you're both doing your thing, you're on your phone, that's whatever. But like, let's say you go someplace, right? And you're there on like an occasion. It's not just kind of like you're just coexisting, whether it's a date or an activity and stuff like that. I've noticed that it really frustrates me when a lot of that time is spent focusing on a phone and focusing on chats and focusing on things like that, rather than what you're doing with the person you're with or the people you're with, whether it's a social gathering or if it's just an event. And I don't know if that stems from me having already like experienced sort of overloading myself with online tech sort of interactions, or if it stems from just generally being around people who don't do that so much. I tend to spend a lot of my time around older folks. And so I don't know. I don't know where that stems from, but that
Wait.
definitely like is huge for me.
When you say older folks, what does that mean?
That's who's the oldest person here? Let me see if I that plus 5. I don't know. Typically people who are like in their 40s, 50s. I mean, definitely not expired, but older than me. Outside of my
so much.
generation.
I feel so much better now. 'Cause I'm not
No,
quite 40.
no, people who are just generally, I think, less likely to be on their phones for everything. Like my biological mother's only 13 years older than me. She is way better with like Snapchat than I am. which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But my adopted mother, she's like 60. I mean, I made her a Snapchat once, and she has never used it. But that's cool because we have real conversations, and we go to like Olive Garden and stuff, and I feel like I'm part of the family. So I just feel like it's a totally different type of interaction, and I think it's healthy to have both. But I don't think that there are adverse effects in not being entrenched in like the digital side of things, but there are always adverse effects in being entrenched in that. Like, or does that make sense? What am I
Yep.
saying?
I
Yeah,
totally get
yeah.
it.
One and not the other.
So the harm of eliminating digital communication is less than or non-existent versus the harm of eliminating in real life communication with real people, physical people.
Mhm.
How about the
Yeah.
other extreme? My mom's never been on the internet, doesn't know what's there, has no idea what she's missed. But then again, she's, missed all of it. She's never been there. I don't know if she had gotten on the internet, if her life would be different, if it would have changed her in some way. So right now, she lives alone and she spends her days going to the senior center. The only relationships she has are with the neighbors who live around her, or people who go places that she goes. And there is no online world for her. That's the world she knew when she was growing up is the same world she knows now. And she gets confused by hearing people talk about all these different things that we do with our time electronically on the internet, because she has no idea what that concept even means.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I would say like with my grandparents that they would fall into that. They would have, they're gone now, but they would have fallen into that category. My mom is very much on social, she's on Instagram, so she very much is connected to the internet. She's on her phone. Like we talk a lot by text. So it's just I think that it's important to have that balance where you know how to interact with people in real life, and it doesn't become a thing where you're awkward because of having been so entrenched in this electronic life, that the digital world that we've uh, that's came all around us. I mean, I'm remembering a time when it's just like a few computers in a library, and now they're on every floor, they're everywhere, they're in our pockets. And it's a such thing as allowing that to take over. When I'm on my bicycle, I'm seeing people glued to their phone, the almighty Lord God of the cell phone, whatever they're doing, that's the altar they worship on. And it's like, look up, for crying out loud. Like every now and again, you're going to cross the street. There's a car about to hit you. Look up. And it gets
To
so
that
ridiculous.
point, phones actually have warning systems in them now when you're walking with your phone, and they tell you to
No.
look up now. This is a thing now.
Wow.
It's I don't know what it says, but it says something.
And I don't get, like, I can't. And I'm on the phone a lot. Y'all know, you see me on Telegram a lot, but but I know how to be around people in real life and interact with them. And if I'm gonna be around them in real life and interact with them, then I'm not gonna be so involved. I'm not gonna be involved with my cell phone. It's rude to do certain things, but the generation that's popular now, it's like they don't have a concept of that. Their concept of what's rude and what's not has been completely distorted by this digital world that we're in right now. And I have an issue with that.
Have you seen the augmented reality phones where you're walking along, looking at your phone, and the camera on the back of the phone is showing them on the screen what's in front of them?
Oh wow. Wow.
And it's like attention, you're approaching an intersection, but
That's
they're
amazing.
looking at their phone, but the phone is showing them what's right in front of them.
Oh.
When I was a kid, before cell phones were a thing, and a huge fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation, so I wanted a tablet, a tricorder, all these things. And in a way, I've gotten most of what I wanted as a child. And so I found that when I was younger, I only had so much social energy, like at a family event or something. I would very often just kind of withdraw after time, and I had something like old issues of Compute magazine or something. That's probably Kurt will probably know what that is. Linux Ninja maybe, and I would and so I'd withdraw and I'd just read, because sometimes it was just impossible for me to be social for an extended period of time. And so in many ways, the phone has replaced carrying a magazine or a book with me, because sometimes I'll just read. It's not that I'm playing a game or whatever. Just I need to like reset, and I need a personal reboot, a soft reboot, not a hard reboot, where I can then engage people again. Because I personally like 2 hours of talking with people live once a week here even can be a challenge for me, because I'm not naturally very continuously social. Like when I was at Southeast Linux Fest, I had to withdraw completely from everybody and like go back to my room for a bit, because it was just so difficult for me to continue to talk. You're not my counselors, I'm just letting you know. So in a way, perhaps the phone is a different kind of crutch, or technology is a different kind of crutch for me in my now that I'm older, as Schickel would say, much older, over the hill. So it's just a different kind of crutch. Do you think that's a fair statement?
I just went back to school shopping with my kids, and checking out at the cash register, the cashier has AirPods in both ears and has something
nice.
playing on their iPhone, so that they don't have to interact with the customer. They're just
Honestly, as a customer, I love that. I'm self-checkout all the way. Just nobody can bag my groceries better than I can.
I can't go through self-checkout with 2 huge buggies full of stuff.
That's fair. Yeah, that's manual labor right there. That's not worth it. Just to shop.
I went shopping today. Went to Aldi. I don't know if you guys know what Aldi is, or if you have those around you, but that's generally my favorite place to shop. And the thing I like to do is see if I can beat the Aldi cashier getting my stuff on the conveyor belt before they actually get it all gone through. I don't want them waiting on me, so I've gotten much better at this. But I like those short little like single serving interactions with people, and I like to engage people and whatnot. But parties or social gatherings, those are a challenge for me.
What about a party of cashiers?
Would they be Aldi cashiers? Because that might change things.
Just nothing but Aldi cashiers.
I think I can speak to the experience that Nate was talking about. So like, for instance, with this pandemic, absolute foolishness. I know, I got the shirt. I ended up meeting people, that had different things on Zoom, where they watch movies together. We just sit and talk to each other. And that pretty much became my social life for quite some time, until things got adjusted and people was around each other again. So it was a very nice lifeline, I would say, where I could be on a Zoom with people and just enjoy their company, even if they live far in Louisiana somewhere, and I'm Texas or somewhere, and I'm able to just communicate with them, and that was cool, And I just really like that. And so, as a person that lived in a world before computers were so common, I think it's important to be able to do both. When you have a time when, okay, you're online, okay, but then you also have times when you're around people in person and are able to interact with them without it being super awkward. It's nothing wrong with having a time when you're spent socially. You're like, okay, I just need to go recollect myself and I'll be back later. That's okay, but everybody needs a break sometimes. And it was just interesting when you talked about the phone becoming the new magazine, what people would have done to kind of collect their thoughts and not be listening to everybody else's foolishness. Like, that's an interesting thing that I never thought of before.
I don't know what this says about me, but about a week or so ago, I broke my phone, and it was maybe 5 or 6 in the afternoon. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll just get a new phone tomorrow. So from that time to 11 p.m. the next day, I didn't have a phone. And my thought to myself was wow, this is just like the 80s. and I was all proud of myself. I was like, look at me, I'm just going. You know, if somebody needs me, they'll find a way to like telegraph my mom or something, and
Smoke signals.
it'll be all good. Yeah, so I don't need to. It was kind of relaxing. I'm not gonna lie, because I had absolutely nothing to worry about. I went and I looked at goats. I played with goats for a little bit. Not even joking.
Nice.
Like that was one of my first choices. I was like, I'm free of technology. I'm gonna play with goats. That was, and it was a really great experience. More people should play with goats.
I want to get goats, but I don't think I'm disciplined enough yet. You know, for milk, and I don't like goat milk or goat cheese, but you know, just
Oh.
because.
Fresh goat milk is so
I love
good.
goats anyway, so that would be amazing. Goats are awesome.
So
So
I
are
have to,
ducks.
I have to say. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to share. I have teen daughters, and I've got a, you know, and during the pandemic, they started going to school online, and so I've got my daughter graduated, and now she's thinking about going to college online, and you know, and it is, the world has changed a little bit in that regard, you know, because she can actually do a lot of things, you know, online. She works at a pizza joint as a waitress, and that actually is her in real life time, you know, and she actually looks forward to it. But I can't imagine, when I was ready to go to college, I wanted to go to college, stay in, you know, live in dorms and experience everything. Of course, you know, I was a screw up too, but at the time, but still, it is, things are a little bit different, and yeah, and I think definitely I miss, or I'm kind of disappointed she doesn't go out more. But you know, all these things you know, change. Maybe there'll be maybe it's a pendulum that'll swing back.
Like, as a person who is in a college and took courses during the pandemic, I couldn't concentrate at all in the online courses. I just took one, and it was for the course. The only course I took during, like, when the college was shut down was early 2020. So half of the course I took IRL, half of the course was on Zoom, and the second half actually was online, because the pandemic was in like March 2020, right? It was before, but mainly it's March 2020.
Mhm.
I couldn't concentrate at all online. Like, I couldn't do it. I didn't know what I learned in March and April. Like, the only reason like I could sort of pass that course is because they gave us an option of making it pass or fail. I would have passed, but like, I'm a straight A student. I got A's and everything, and this could have screwed that up like badly. I couldn't concentrate at all. It was like horrible. One of the most horrible learning experience I had. And during the next year, I was a teaching assistant for one straight year. For 2 straight semesters, I was a teaching assistant, and Zoom helped a lot. Like, I was able to help students, but it was not the same. Like, if I was a teaching assistant normally, I feel that I would have been more effective. Even the course, like, I don't think learning is easy online, especially for people like me who have short concentration spans. Like, if I'm working on something, I can work for hours, but especially like if there's a course, like a normal course, I cannot concentrate beyond like 45 minutes. Like 45 minutes, 50 minutes is my limit. And especially online is even worse. Like, if the class is on Zoom and I'm on a computer, I'll have other screens open. Like, I cannot concentrate. Like, it's, at least for me, and I think it's true for many other people too. Like, I think the university also recognized that fact and made the courses and all, like, they made the grading slightly flexible. It's like, if you want, you can make it pass or fail or whatever. Like, it won't count towards a GPA. But yeah, At least for me, I couldn't fathom like going to an online college. Like it's very hard.
I realized during the pandemic that my social life didn't really change that much, and I was kind of disappointed in myself, um, because I didn't really miss much of the in real life stuff. It took actually a long time before I started to miss it. Actually, it was kind of a relief for a while.
So something he was just saying was about the distractions that you have. You have so much stuff going on your computer. If you've got one window open where you're taking an online course, you've got all these other things going on. And I just put in chat, what I do is I set up a VM that is specifically for a particular task where I need to focus on that. And I full screen that VM. I don't have anything else running on my machine. And while I'm in that VM, I'm on that task. And inside that VM is everything I need to accomplish that task and nothing else. And then when I've put all the time into that I need to, say if it's 2 hours or whatever, then I shut that VM down and I can switch and focus and go do something else.
I do that with workspaces on my desktop. I don't let my my tasks infiltrate each other. I keep everything confined to the workspace that it's for. And that was like super necessary for me too when I was my paycheck came from being on the computer basically 24/7. So yeah, no, isolating your tasks like that, super handy.
I was going to say that having the VM set up, the side benefit of that was I don't always work in the same place. So having that VM image is something that's portable, and I could take it wherever I was going and put it on whatever machine I happen to be sitting in front of. So whether I'm here at the house or if I'm at the Ninja Tech office or if at my day job office, that thing can travel with me on a flash drive. So if I've got a certain setup for my machine for doing a certain task, that's able to go with me.
That's a good point.
Mr. Vaughn, what are you going to say?
I was saying like I get what Shigun is saying, like, but if you're taking a class, it's like it's not your paycheck depending on it, right? Like that's an issue. It's like, yeah, and generally when you're taking classes, you're taking multiple classes. It's really hard to even concentrate during like actually physically taking them. But online it's like if the classes are like 90 minutes long, you lose concentration anyways after like 30-40 minutes. That's a human, like most people lose concentration after 50 minutes when you take a class, like anything, if you're in a particular task. That's why I think we talk about the Pomodoro technique like to last week or before that. It's because 25 minutes is optimum where you have a complete focus, and after that like you start losing your concentration, and after 15 minutes it doesn't last at all.
Right. Cool. Well, I just thought I'd bring that up as something I was thinking about just the other day. I was people watching, and how the different behaviors you can see of different ages, and I just noticed that concerns me a little bit how the younger people and sometimes even my oldest, he gets stuck on the technology, and I sometimes worry. So next week we have our application Appetizer. I did put in the discourse forum anything and like try and extract some ideas out of people, and I got some good ideas and such too. But one of the I found a new source for application ideas. If you go to flathub.org/apps/collection/new, or just go to flathub.org and go to new apps, I found some very interesting applications. Some are games. I don't know if they're into games or not, but I stumbled on something that really made me laugh, and it's called Tuxemon. It is an open source themed Pokemon game. Now, I'm not saying that we would try this here, but I think that it was very funny and just kind of got me looking at some more things out there, just some fun applications. And there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, things I've never heard of before, which I think is pretty great. So there is a thing called Norm Cap that extracts text from any image. I think that'd be a fun application to try. Something called, again, this is another gaming thing, but Grape Juice. It's a launcher for the Roblox player, which doesn't work in Linux. I mean, I haven't tried it yet. But sometimes my kids have like a love for Roblox. I want to play that, so that becomes a thing that I can't play on my Linux machine. And there's some other really fun things out there as well. There's a Solve Space. I don't know if anyone's seen this. It's a parametric 3D CAD tool, which is something that I might be interested in trying as well. So I don't know if you want to check that out. Maybe we can come up with an application for next week. Any thoughts or ideas? Maybe something you've stumbled upon that really tickles your fancy? Nothing jumps out at you?
Nothing really.
So you've just been going through FlatHub and just checking out.
Yeah,
Have
just
you
some
been
stuff.
looking under any particular category or just in general?
No, just in general.
In general, okay.
Yeah. There's something called a
There are
Go ahead.
I was going to say there are a lot of unknown applications in FlatHub that you just wouldn't know what they are, and very unfamiliar names, odd names. So it's quite a list.
And something that kind of grabbed my attention was this thing called TIC80. It's a fantasy computer for making, playing, and sharing tiny games. It's ridiculous, which is why I like it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
That's not something you could do in a week. At least I couldn't do in a week. I wouldn't have the time for it. But it does fascinate me nonetheless.
Looks like a trade war style game. Naikiri, Naikari. Trade wars with graphics.
Interesting. So have you run out of a list of applications to look at, or you're just trying something different at
Well,
this
trying something
point?
different. So last time we did the Pomodoro apps, and there was very little interest. And so I was trying to kind of gauge some interest from people. Like, here's one from Cat Daddy. It is a CLI radio player. This may or may not be of some interest. And so I at this point I want to find something. I guess we could do a series of applications. There's nothing that says we have to all do the same thing.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yes, please.
So this past week, I've noticed I was kind of helping some folks out with some apps that people were like interested in solving some problems or potentially self-hosting. And Unihost or YUnohost came up a bunch of times. And since we're thinking about apps to try, I was wondering if anyone would be interested in using Unihost, which pretty much is like a Debian, built on Debian. You install it like you're installing a regular distro, and then it has its own app store. And you can, instead of downloading apps like from GNOME Software Center, you're basically installing self-hosted software for your home server, and it's pretty much auto configures based on your like username that you use to install Unihost. So they have a wealth of like apps, and they actually give you like a ranking system of like highly supported, top notch versus like poorly maintained to use at your own risk. And you have like kind of all kinds of like nifty utility tools to running your own WordPress, HedgeDoc, and all kinds of really cool stuff. So if people want to kind of explore apps, that might be something that people want to try. Like pick a utility tool and see how it holds up with your server.
Do that. It's pretty broad. That's my concern. Is it's pretty broad because. And how do we?
Yeah, it's almost like choose your own adventure.
Right.
And like, yeah, and then people is more like almost like it's almost like how's Unihost doing in your experience, and then a sub conversation is out of all the apps you chose, what did you choose and why? What problem did you have? Because everyone has like a unique thing. Some would use use Jellyfin.
Mm-hmm.
Some other way you just do like a file share thing. I just need to send a file securely and encrypt it and not use like some random online service. So that was just a kind of idea.
It's an interesting idea. Do you have a link for that? Oh, YOUNO. Unihost.
Yeah, YUnohost. It's a silly play on words because Linux stuff is the king of silly names.
It seems it's based on a meme. Why you
Yeah.
know?
Which I like. It's kind of clever. It's like if you're gonna own bad names, really own it. And I think they crushed it. the website's kind of clever too.
This almost looks like a distribution.
Massive props to their website for not sucking. This is actually really pretty and makes me not hate it. I like it.
Yeah, I remember talking to
Wow.
one of the core devs, and he was like, yeah, we probably need some help with marketing communications. We're thinking about like doing some stuff to the website. I was like, no, the website is great. It's fine. Of course, every website can use some tweaks, but compared to like what's out there, yeah, it's clever.
It has Raspberry Pi for Sravan, so that's something.
Yeah.
Also an ARM board. I don't know what that.
Just a
means.
warning: don't run Nextcloud on a Pi unless it's like a Pi 4. Like I tried, it doesn't end up well.
You can edit their website live. You can edit the actual. This is so cool.
That is pretty cool.
So you not only can you see the code that controls like the randomized quotes and whatever, but you can also create your own little bits and pieces and then run that. That is incredible.
Well, I don't know. What does the panel say? Does it look like something we can do in a week? Agenda.
I have no idea. It looks pretty cool though.
Yeah, it does.
I
This is
mean, I would
amazing.
love to learn about it. I mean, why wouldn't you?
All right. So
And if you have a virtual machine or a spare machine, it goes on. You have it on both. They have a VirtualBox image too.
yeah, I was thinking of using it on a Pi since I got some 0s and 3s lying around.
And the installer's pretty simple. And then the web portal where you kind of configure your domain, because they give you a subdomain of Unihost. So for example, mine is like falsewire.nohost.me, and that's my kind of like my dashboard of all my apps. And so it kind of takes away, it abstracts away the whole like you got to find domain if you want to have it public facing. How much you're going to pay for the domain and how you do DNS. It kind of just takes care of all of that. It has Let's Encrypt baked in. This fail to ban. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the more I read about it, the more interesting I find it. Colin, what do you think? What is your
He's going to do the Roman.
It's not something that completely interests me. I mean, I've got a Wix website, so I just use that. Whether this is, I don't know. It's not. It's probably outside of the scope of my knowledge, to be honest. I would have to think.
That's
I could
the
try
beauty
it.
of it, though. It's like meant to make it easy, and they have a huge app catalog. So when you want to experiment with something like this, you might want to peruse the app catalog and see if there's something that tickles your pickle.
I don't know if we can say that.
But it's fun. It's in the community is like pretty helpful, more so on the forums than anywhere else. But
I almost want to move this to like a distro exploration, because kind of a distro.
we could do it for that too.
It's something that I would need some time to dig into.
Yeah, it's like a distro/app thingy.
I think it's a distro. It's not kind of like a distro. You have to install it.
Yeah.
But it has some cool apps.
Well, I want to definitely put that on the list for a distro exploration, actually. So then I guess the back to maybe what applications. This is like the worst week to set up. It's fine on the day of, but actually getting it going seems like such a pain.
Was there ever an app that someone like hated and they used to use, they haven't used in a while, that they should go back to and try? Because apps upgrade, they kind of enhance, and maybe it's a good time to check the stuff that we bailed on years ago.
Lollipop. Now, I've seen Lollipop around a lot. Never tried Lollipop, which is a audio player, I believe. Play and organize your music. Sound Juicer. Now, there's a blast from the past. Sound Juicer, CD Ripper. That was a good one, that one. Sound Juicer.
What if we all choose a music player application we're not accustomed to, and then we bring that to the next application Appetizer
A music player.
that
Sounds good.
we've never used before.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent.
So we'll go to on FlatHub. So I think every distribution does FlatHub. If not, change your distribution. go to this audio video category, pick a media player targeting music, and try one out or whatever, and see if it's better than the music player you're using now.
All right. Sounds good.
And then what we'll do is I'll do a I'll be a little more communicative this week on like the Telegram and the I'll spend more time on my screen, and I'll do a little more on the Telegram, whatever, and like if I want to try and get some feedback from people, and then maybe do a vote, see which one is most popular, whatever. But yeah, just start filing your stuff away and say, hashtag application appetizer or something like that, or tag me, and we'll start to build something from there. But so pick a music player you've never used before from the FlatHub, and see if you like it better than what you're using now. Does that work?
All right. Sounds good.
All right, cool.
Sounds great.
Awesome. All right, to move on. So for some housekeeping, there'll be no show August 20th. I'm going to have to take that week and skip that week. So the week after that will be a distro exploration. So let's maybe we can choose one ahead of time so that we don't have to painfully sift through some things.
Well,
all right.
I'd probably suggest we
Yes.
do maybe what what's his name was talking about tonight.
What Prophetic was talking about? I like it. I have it.
Prophetics.
Yep,
Yeah,
I got it. I got it saved. All right, so we're going to have to skip the news. Thank you, Michael, from This Week in Linux, for shooting up a great flight of topics that we didn't get to sample, and I hope he's having a great time at scale. So we'll go and go to our last call. Mark, the Atlanta Linux enthusiasts.
Yes, we are a Linux user group that's online. We meet every Sunday from 3 to 6 U.S. Eastern, and you can get more information about that at ale.org. That's ALE.org. There is no set presentation. You bring your Linux problems or questions, and we discuss it. Sort of like this, anything that's Linux or open source is on tap, and but we'll get a little bit more hands-on. You can share screen, and we'll try to help you through the problem. So that is the Atlanta Linux enthusiast.
That's excellent. And then Steve's very own, he wasn't here tonight, but he's canceled this week's Coffee Clatch for tomorrow. So sorry about that. Destination Linux is not streaming live tomorrow. Sorry about that. Linux User Space, the next show I think, which releases Monday, we're going over the history of the very first Unix test editor, Ed. Ubuntu Thoughts section that didn't make it into the history episode because of time. And apparently they're focusing on somebody in the community for the community focus. So I don't know what it is yet. I haven't listened, but apparently there's your tease. So check out Linux User Space. Linux Out Loud, it's a podcast I'm involved with. My co-hosts Matt and Wendy are a lot of fun to listen to. And we actually talked about discovering new apps. How funny. And then for more information on me, you can go to cubiclenate.com. I usually do stuff. So I want to thank you all for being a part of the conversation in both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you all for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
No.
Oh, I love blooper
Okay.
reels.
That had to hurt.
Going to go to your blooper reel net.
Yep, that'll go on the blooper reel. I don't know if anybody. I don't know how many people actually watch the blooper reel. I haven't checked the like when people trail off, but I do them for me because they make me laugh, and it's all worth it for me. So I like it when even when I screw up, I'll put that in the blooper reel because I think it's fun.
It's all fair game.
Absolutely.
Like
Another
get
thing I
that,
found is
but when you think
having those.
Okay.
All right, Nate, pick somebody.
Go ahead, Linux Ninja. Just a moment.
Corporate accounts enable Nina speaking. Just a moment.
Oh, your audio is still out. Nate,
How about now?
there you
What
go.